Bună seara, stimați telespectatori! Bine v-am găsit la o nouă ediție a emisiunii Ambasador România. O altă ediție extrem de interesantă, pentru că vorbim astăzi despre o țară care, chiar dacă nu se află foarte aproape de România, este extrem de prezentă pe agenda publică internațională și pe agenda publică națională. Este vorba despre Libia, o țară cu care România a avut relații foarte bune, atât economice cât și politice, în vremea sistemului comunist, dar care și astăzi, după Revoluția din 2011, se pregătește să aibă o relație foarte bună economică și politică cu România. Vorbim despre Libia, o țară cu 6,2 milioane de locuitori, din nordul Africii, o țară care a trecut recent, foarte mare de altfel ca și suprafață, de 3 ori suprafața României, cu care a trecut prin foarte multe greutăți. A fost condusă din 1969 de Muammar Gaddafi, după Revoluția împotriva regelui, care a și plecat din țară, iar timp de 50 de ani, chiar mai bine, a fost condusă de către Muammar Gaddafi, cel care a preluat, practic, rolul de revoluționar în numele poporului libian, dar care a ajuns să conducă dictatorial Libia. În 2011, în urma Revoluției, Libia și-a câștigat independența față de dictatură, pentru că această independență este poate mai importantă decât cea pe care și-a câștigat-o ca țară cu mult timp înainte. Și astăzi, Libia, din păcate, este o țară care trece prin vremuri grele, în care instabilitatea este, din păcate, o constantă și de aceea ne aplecăm și asupra problemelor din nordul Africii și din Orientul Mijlociu, pentru că, vă spuneam, și vă spuneau și ambasadorii invitați până astăzi din emisiune, că evenimentele din această zonă pot oricând afecta România, pot oricând afecta Europa și de aceea trebuie să fim extrem de atenți la zonele respective, să vedem ce se întâmplă, să fim conștienți de conflictele din regiune, dar în același timp și de oportunitățile pe care le oferă această zonă a lumii, inclusiv din punct de vedere economic. Mr. Ambassador, I'm sorry, Mr. Chargé d'Affaires, I got used with using the term ambassador, but I will formulate correctly. You are Chargé d'Affaires of the Libyan government of Romania.
That's right.
Which is an acting ambassador, but without having the title of an ambassador. And I want to thank you for coming. I know your country is passing difficult moments, and in these difficult moments, it is not easy for you to be here and talk about what is happening in Libya. But because of the friendship that Romania and Libya had, and you will explain us better later, how much Romania and Libya work together, and economically, educational, and from many points of view, Romanians are very much eager to know more about countries which are not necessarily closer to them, but they understand that it can become an opportunity or a vulnerability. And Romania is now part of the European Union, and the whole European Union must, in our view, take a closer look to what happens in the north of Africa, in the Middle East, and in our view, of course, they don't give so much attention. But my first question for you, Omar, because you already allowed me to call you like that, as your family name is a little bit longer.
That's true.
And my first question to you is, but let me tell you, let me tell the viewers a few things about you, because the character of the invitee is also very important. Of the ambassador, of the chargé d'affaires, of the invitee in general. You have been working many years in the oil business. You worked up to the top management. You have been leading one of the most important oil companies in Libya. That was the top management level you raised. And then you were appointed in 2011 during the revolution, or just immediately after the revolution in Libya. You were appointed the deputy prime minister of your country. So you were the deputy prime minister for 1 year until 2012, and now you are the chargé d'affaires of Libya to Romania. I just wanted our viewers to know also the person we are talking to and we are addressing to, because the character of the person is also important in such communication and public diplomacy efforts. But again, my first question to you is, how do you see the relations between our countries now? And of course, describe a little bit what is happening in Libya from a Libyan perspective, because the media is doing its job, but sometimes it's underlying only the exceptional things and usually the bad things. How is Libya now?
Okay. Well, first of all, I would like to thank you very much for inviting me in your great talk show, and I appreciate giving me this chance to speak to the Romanian people and talk about the relation between Romania and my country.
Yes.
I am deeply indebted to you, and I thank you very much.
Pleasure.
As far as the relation between Romania and Libya is concerned, the first diplomatic relations between Libya and Romania were inaugurated in 1974, when the Romanian embassy in Tripoli was opened at that time, and then the diplomatic relations took off from that date. It was a great time for both countries, and the relation was really good. There was economic cooperation in all areas, in the oil and gas production and exploration, in agriculture, in the infrastructure of Libya, housing. So many areas, Romanians, they were involved in these projects in Libya.
Companies, Romanian from
Romanian
Romania.
Companies, yes, in different areas, and this is what I remember, and I'm sure there are plenty of other companies and projects that the Romanians have participated in during the 70s and 80s and probably 90s. They have even discovered an oil field, as we mentioned.
Yes.
And they,
by Rompetrol, if you...
Rompetrol, yes, and it was in the southwestern Libya, in the area of Ubari. And we know that Romania has some experience in the oil and gas production. I think it's one of the oldest oil-producing countries in Europe.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes, and they still possess the experience, and we still look forward for our people to come here and get some training in the future. So the relations were great and continued this way for so many years, and until recently, when the 17th of February revolution in Libya took place.
Yes.
Things all over Libya remained the same and stagnant, and no more projects or things. But we hope that this cooperation between our two countries will continue, and this is exactly why we are here. We plan to continue this cooperation and expand this cooperation in the future in different areas. And as long as the situation in Libya is concerned, what happened in Libya was actually a revolution that took place on the 17th of February in 2011, as we all know.
Yeah.
This relation, the people in Libya demonstrated against the regime of the dictatorship. It was I think, 42 years of authoritarian
almost 50 years,
rule, which is, I think, it's one of the longest serving rulers.
Personal regime, yes, like
regime,
Castro,
yes.
almost.
I think Castro is the longest.
Is the longest.
Then comes Colonel Gaddafi.
Yes.
It's 42
Yes.
years.
Yes.
That's a long time, and people are not really demonstrating for like a change of standard of living or
Because let's tell the viewers that during Gaddafi and last period, your people were having the highest living standard from the whole region.
Yes, well, that's true, but not the highest, but they were enjoying at least the minimum requirement for living, you know. They were actually, they were not demonstrating or for bread or for food or for anything.
Yes.
All they were looking for is freedom.
Yes.
They wanted a democratic country. They wanted re-establishment of institutions, democratic institutions. They wanted like a peaceful transfer of power.
Yeah.
They wanted separation of powers. They wanted independent justice system. They wanted a good health system. They wanted good education system. And these are all were lacking during the period of dictatorship. Although Libya is the population is 6 million,
yes.
and was producing nearly 2 million barrels of oil per day.
Wow.
But people
were not seeing the benefits.
Yes, people would go for treatment in Tunisia and in Egypt and in Jordan. You see, we don't even have decent hospitals.
Omar, can I ask you something? Where were this money going? Did you discover after your government took power? Where were all the money from 2 million barrels per day producing? Where were they going?
Well, there was this money went to arming and rearming the country. Although we don't have an army. The army was actually disbanded in the late 80s, I think it's about 1989, the army was disbanded, and instead of the army, Gaddafi formed what you call a security brigades.
Yes, his personal army.
Personal guard,
yes.
Personal security for him and for his loyals.
Yes.
Specially trained military brigades to protect him and to oppress any possible rebellion in the future.
His regime was very, him personally and his regime, as far as we could see from the testimonies of different witnesses, after that was very tough, and he was committing many abuses. His sons as well were committing many abuses.
That's true.
And my question still remains, where were all this money going? Because if the Libyans were not seeing the result of this money, where were still going? To the family? Or?
Well, first of all, the Libyans, the annual budget and the expenditure it looks like it's enough for the development of the country, for salaries, for paying for subsidies, because the fuel is subsidized. The basic food items are subsidized by the government. But still, for 6 million people, we consider that the oil revenues are too high. As I mentioned, some or part of this budget is going to arming and to support also some, freedom movements. This is what this is the expression that supporting freedom movements in Africa and other countries and some other ways of spending the country's fortune.
And practically Gaddafi was trying to involve himself in other countries in the region, and he was also supporting political movements in those countries. And
oh yes, of course he was supporting many political movements in different continents. Africa and South America, in Asia, in different places on earth. And so he's a dictatorship.
Yes.
It's a dictatorship.
But why? Why was he doing that? I'm wondering.
Well, he thinks that he is a leader for the world. He
Yes.
once said that he is a leader with no population.
He was,
Yeah, so
he was too good and too big for
he's
the
too
population.
good for Libya. The population of Libya is too small for him. So he was looking to become
Unbelievable.
he called himself the brother leader. The great, and he was the first of everything. He was the first teacher.
Yes.
He was the first engineer. He was the first, you name it, you know, everything.
Yes,
he was the first.
We had one which was the first, and now he is the last.
Yeah, I
he
think it's a
doesn't.
similar
He's not there
situation.
anymore. But still, 42 years. It's a long, long period where a person can get crazy. I believe that dictators, at some point, you know the word, give a man power, and you'll find his character, or give a man power or absolute power, and the power will corrupt him absolutely. I believe that after in these 40 years of power, Gaddafi went crazy, and he wanted to make the global games and so on.
Yes, to add to that, to your question, where did the money go?
Yes,
I
please.
think another reason for the waste of the Libya oil revenues is the adventures.
Yes,
his
adventures.
ideas.
Yes.
When he came up with a new theory. First, when he came to power, he embraced the Arab nationalism.
In
He
69.
wanted to go on the footsteps of President Jamal Abdel Nasser of Egypt. But the difference is so great. He said that he is embracing the Arab nationalism, and he raised the banner of the freedom, socialism, and unity. And he went on for about 6 or 7 years on this. And then he changed everything and came up with something he called the third universal theory.
Yes.
Which is something different from the two previous theories, capitalism
Socialism.
and socialism.
Yes, he was too smart for the world.
Something new. And he said that this is the only way, a possible way, it's the only possible and practical way of implementing democracy. And the essence of this theory is that nobody can speak in behalf of the people. The people have to speak for themselves. So instead of electing representatives for parliament or for Congress, the whole people have to go there.
But that is impossible.
Oh yes, so he found out that this is impossible. So every city, the people have to make a big meeting, and they have to discuss their affairs and then raise the issues and the decisions to the General People's Congress. And members of these Congress, sometimes they reach 3,000 people. So this idea with its economic piece, and he wrote the Green Book. Mm-hmm. And in the economic section of this Green Book, he nationalized everything. He abolished the private sector completely. There was nothing there. If you want to buy something, you go to a central market that's owned by the state. So there is no private sector anymore. And this lasted for more than 15 years.
Yes. Before going further, I would like to ask you something very shortly, and to respond me if it is possible very shortly before the first commercial break. It's my understanding, maybe I'm wrong. Did Gaddafi found a way in which he substituted himself to the people in this way? Because practically he was speaking about participating all the people to the decision process. That was impossible. But in the same time, he was having nobody to control him, because he was the only one able to speak in the name of the people. So he managed to impose the dictatorship, because no institution could exist, only the people. But the people are never able to decide all together, because there are 6 million.
That's true. This is what he was saying, you know, that the people have to make the decisions. The only people, but actually, in reality, he was the man. He was the one who calls the shots.
Exactly.
Nobody else.
Nobody.
For 42 years.
My God.
Even this General People's Congress, which is the parliament, every time they convene, they have to invite Colonel Gaddafi to speak.
Of course.
And during his speech, he gives instructions how to run the country. So it was a one-man show.
It was a one-man show, Omar, and now we will take a short break of commercials. We had a one-man show. We didn't enjoy it very much, Ceausescu, and you had yours, but for us was 25 years of personal ruling. You had 42 commercials. We are back with the chargé d'affaires of the Libyan embassy to Bucharest. We are talking, Omar, about what happened with Gaddafi, what happened with the whale, with the rich part of Libya, which was the whale over these years, and the fact that all this money coming from whale are not to be seen in the economy, are not to be seen in the housing, infrastructure, and so on. Now, what I would like to ask you is, why do you believe the people did not remove Gaddafi earlier? Because of these personal guards, which actually betrayed him at the end, that he trained and invested in them. What was the reason that the Libyan people supported Gaddafi so much years, 42 years?
Well, I don't think the Libyan people supported Gaddafi. Maybe in the beginning, you know,
in the 69,
69 when he took over through a military coup d'etat.
Coup d'etat, yes.
In 1969, September 1969,
yes.
And overthrew the king.
Yes.
And he came in a time, you know, actually. The country, you know, that Libya was when gained independence in 1951,
yes,
and became a united country, known at that time as the United Kingdom of Libya. It was a poor country at that time, very poor. There is no oil at that time. Oil was not discovered. People in Libya were only depending on agriculture, raising livestock, fishing, and very small and minor industries. But then when the oil was discovered in the late 50s, I think it's 1959 when oil was discovered, yes, in Libya, and Libya started producing oil in the early 60s. Then the economy of the country changed.
So yes,
and
it became popular.
That's true, and more investment from other countries came to Libya, and the country started to become, you know, the standard of living of the people improved a lot.
Yes.
And then the healthcare system, it was one of the best in Africa at that time. The education system also was one of the best in Africa and the Middle East. And all indicators show that this country is going to be the most prosperous country in Africa.
So the people lived with a hope and with a better
And the
life.
people lived with the hope and they were looking forward to the future, but this opportunity was, unfortunately, was lost.
Yes.
And this dream did not come true. When these young officers
Yes.
took over and they start taking steps that are, due to lack of experience. They're very young at that time and they were very ambitious. Maybe they are trying to do something for the country, but their approach was wrong.
Absolutely.
It was wrong. And then they start experimenting with the country, with the destiny of the country, with the economy of the country, and they spoiled the whole thing.
As you mentioned, they invested in adventures.
Yes, I consider it adventures.
Yes.
Because first of all, they were adopting the Arab nationalism and then changed to another theory that is not capitalism nor socialism. It was in the middle. And they were experimenting with various economic models that were created by the leader, the leader of the country.
Supreme leader, yes.
The supreme leader. Yes.
It is a very... Romanians are very much aware of Gaddafi because of the times when Ceausescu was in good relation with, not only with Libya, but with North Africa countries and the Middle East. And I don't think it was necessarily wrong, it was good, because Romania in that time had a good opportunity to invest, as you mentioned, to have trade with those countries. Things that we didn't really continue so much after the revolution over communism, which was not good, and we also had to suffer because of that. But I would like to go a little bit to more recent years, and I would like to take advantage of your position as Deputy Prime Minister in your country in that particular time when the revolution started, and just the year after that, 2011, 2012, to ask you, did Gaddafi ever believe that he would be removed? Was any moment he was having the feeling that he will be removed and he will die as he died in a mall? He was killed by the people in the street. He was not taken prisoner and judged and so on. But the question remains, did he ever thought that he will be removed from power? Because he was quite arrogant before the airplanes started to bomb Libya and especially France. Was he, what was your feeling as a Libyan in those times, looking to Gaddafi? Was he aware of what was happening?
Well, I think probably he was not aware. He thinks that he is very popular. His last speeches during the first days of the revolution were indicative of the way he thinks. He thinks that he changed this country, he built the country. He thinks that his coup d'etat was the jewel, the crown jewel, and that everything in Libya was done by Colonel Gaddafi. And he was thinking that he is so popular that nobody can remove him from power. I think this is the idea he had in mind, because I think he was looking for a dynasty.
Yes,
for his family,
sons,
because he was thinking actually of inheriting his son, Saif al-Islam, the country.
Absolutely.
And actually, Saif al-Islam was running the country for the last few years, about 5 years before 2011. He was the man in charge. He was doing everything.
Yes.
And I think Colonel Gaddafi was hoping that Saif al-Islam will go on his footstep.
Yes.
And that his reign will continue for another 50 years.
If we look to other examples, we see North Korea, which is going on the same line. they were having a president, a communist president, and now the son took over, and so on. This cannot last long, because are not royalty. These are just manufactured royalties or monarchies. And Gaddafi was one of the people thinking this way. But I want to ask you something which is controversial, actually. No, it is no doubt that the luxury and the adventures that Gaddafi used the money of the people for are real and are true. In the same time, I want to ask you something, because here it's unclear, and the trial started in France. France was the first one to attack, was the most aggressive, let's say, bombing Libya. Of course, also the United States, Great Britain joined. But France was the main country. I cannot, Omar, I'm sorry, but I cannot forget the footages with Muammar Gaddafi and Sarkozy in the same tent, discussing, negotiating. And now Sarkozy is investigated officially for receiving $50 million from Gaddafi. And Gaddafi himself declared during the revolution that in those days was accusing Sarkozy that this is done because he invested in the campaign of Sarkozy and so on. What is the truth here? I mean, what can you tell us, of course, with your diplomatic attitude? What is the truth here? I mean, did France and all the other countries help because they had an interest, or was because they believed Gaddafi was doing wrong to the people?
Well, it's the way I see it, that the interference of the United Nations,
yes,
was basically due to what happened in the first 4 days of the revolution, because the revolution started in the city of Benghazi, and in 2 days or 3 days, for about 400 people died.
Yes.
In Benghazi and Al-Baida, 2 cities. About 400 people died in the first 4 days, and this was an indication of the coming mass atrocities.
Absolutely.
That will be carried out by Gaddafi's security forces. And the whole world was aware of the size of the catastrophe. Young people peacefully demonstrating, unarmed, and
yes,
they're faced with brutal use of power,
yes,
and live ammunition, you know. So it was really bad, and so the League of Arab States, and also the African Union and condemned this, yes, and asked, yes, the United Nations to do something. Yeah. And actually the United Nations issued a resolution 1970,
yes,
and then another resolution was issued, which is 1973, which is permitted a non-fly zone, because he tried so many times to bomb the city of Benghazi.
yes,
And then there was another attack by his army when approached Benghazi, and they were about to massacre everybody there.
yes. He wanted to practically erase Benghazi with all the population from the earth.
With all the population, and he mentioned this in his speeches, you know.
Yes, a crazy man.
It was a reminder of what happened in some other genocides in Africa and Rwanda and things like that. So the United Nations did not want this
to
thing
repeat.
Yes. And maybe this is the first time they issue this is for the protection of civilians, and this is why they actually interfered. So there was a pivotal role to these countries, especially France, because the first attack by French airplanes. Libyan Air Force also involved in the protecting Benghazi, and they have delayed this the entrance of Colonel Gaddafi's army.
Yes.
But the main job was left to the French. I don't think it's the way I see it that this is something an international coalition.
Of course.
This is from the United Nations.
It was a United Nations resolution, and even Russia was not opposing. But what I'm saying here is that besides of course, we all agree that, like in Romania, that the regime was bad and the guy was crazy, if we put it in a very simple words and not diplomatically. He got crazy. He wanted to kill his own people just because he was not liked anymore, and the town and the city, with like Benghazi, which is a big city, was about to be erased from earth because they protested, as you mentioned, without arms, without anything, just protesting against him. But in the same time, we have this issue, and sometimes when I look to what happens in not only in North Africa or Middle East, in other areas, I cannot stop myself thinking if that is only the reality, because the words of dictator Gaddafi still remains in my ears, and they came back again when the prosecutors in France started the investigation. And the image with Sarkozy having those nice talks with Gaddafi a few years before, I'm not sure when was the meeting, but it was not far from the moment when they decided to bomb Libya, remain. So Gaddafi said that he sponsored with $50 million, by the way, where the money of the Libyans are, this campaign of Mr. Sarkozy. And at the same time, Mr. Sarkozy got upset, and he became the first most important country based on a UN resolution, to bomb Libya and Gaddafi. Mm-hmm. So we have a word in Romanian. I cannot translate it into English, but sounds like this: if you do business with the criminals, don't ask them to obey the law. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I'm sorry to say, but of course, France did a good thing to bomb Libya and managed to remove Gaddafi. But sometimes the big powers make business with these criminals, mm-hmm. and after that they pretend to come and free the people. Mm-hmm. I have my doubts about some. It's just my commentary. Yes, you don't have to. Yes. Yeah.
I understand. Because if you see that Gaddafi in the past 2 to 3 years, before the revolution, before 2011,
yes,
he started a new page with many countries, with the United States. The relations, diplomatic relations between Libya and the United States were reinstalled just a few years before 2011, and a new American ambassador went to Tripoli. Yes. And then the relations with Britain also, I don't know, 2008 probably, they went back, normalized the relations between Britain and Libya. And they were the visit by Mr. Tony Blair. He visited Libya twice.
You are absolutely right.
And also by the foreign minister, the Secretary of State of the United States, Ms. Condoleezza Rice, visited Gaddafi.
Yes,
and many, there were, I think it was because the relations between Libya and other, they went back to normal, and Libya starting to normalize its diplomatic relations with many European countries and the United States after Libya gave up its supposed nuclear program.
Yes.
And things went back to normal. There were so many economic dealing with the European countries, with France, I think.
But you are speaking about the legal ones. I'm speaking about illegal ones, funding campaigns of presidents or candidates of presidents in countries like France or other. It's not really something that the Western countries should accept.
Yes, well, there is a justice system in France, and they should investigate this.
They are
should,
investigating Mr. Sarkozy. I'm just trying to explain to people how.
I think Gaddafi mentioned this, or his son maybe. Yes.
No, Gaddafi mentioned this during the revolution, because when France started to bomb your country, actually to free your country from this lunatic, which was about to kill millions of Libyans just because they were against him. Before happening that, just before the revolution starting, Gaddafi said yes, France and Sarkozy was extremely upset, and he was, he is a very like Napoleon, a small man but with a great voice, and he started to shout to Gaddafi and be very aggressive. And Gaddafi said something which now is not proved truth, but is investigated even in France by the prosecutors in France, that he offered for the campaign of Sarkozy $50 million and the discussion took place in his tent. So that's why I'm saying, Omar, I'm not blaming what happened to it was necessary, but the people, and I'm trying to explain this, that sometimes they need to understand that behind something, of course, United States is it's no doubt Gaddafi would have told everything in his last days before dying. So I don't think Condoleezza Rice got money from him. I don't believe Tony Blair got, because he would have told. But about Sarkozy, he did. And that's why these are truths that needs to be known. And then Sarkozy became the biggest enemy and the most vocal and so on. So these international policies are very tricky, and we need a little bit of ethics in this.
It's true, you're right. I agree with you. But this same thing goes to Qatar, probably.
Oh yes,
because they were the way we see it before.
I agree.
Before the revolution in 2011, Qatar was a very close friend of Gaddafi, and
Yes.
but then. We appreciate what they did for the revolution. We see from our part, because they did some, they were very helpful in the beginning. They voiced
in the beginning.
They voiced their concern, and they supported the Libyan people's aspiration for democracy and building a democratic state. And then, this is in the beginning, what I'm talking about.
Yes, I remember very well. Yes, Qatar was doing this in the beginning. After that, not so much.
Yeah.
But besides Gaddafi, which is a history, we talked so much about him, and maybe he doesn't deserve to be talked about so much. But still, it's 42 years of your history. And that's why it's important for every Romanian to know more about it. Let me ask you, what are the plans of Libya for the future? Because now you are in a difficult situation, several conflicts within the country, and you are passing a difficult moment, Omar. And I have a rule. Every guest of mine which comes, I become him and he becomes me. So I wear your flag because I am very close to you, and for 1 hour I'm a Libyan.
Yes.
You are Romanian, and you wear our flag of the AD. But the idea remains. What happens if I would be a Libyan? What would you tell me as a former prime minister, as an ambassador, chargé d'affaires? What are the plans of Libya from now to later? Because you have one government which is legitimate, elected, and one government which is self-imposed with the guns in the same territory.
Yes. First, what's happening now in Libya is something that we don't like very much, and we hope that this will not continue.
Yes.
Because we have already wasted 4.5 years after the revolution. It's a wasted time. It's a wasted opportunity. We could have utilized this time for rebuilding the country and rebuilding the democratic institutions that we all, sacrificed our youth, our people for it. So many Libyans died for this cause,
Sure.
for the cause of for democracy and freedom of expression, and things like that. It's true that now we have two governments, two legislative bodies.
Yes.
One is legitimate,
Yes.
popularly elected,
By all
which
the
is the
Libyans.
House of Representatives in Tobruk. And the other one is an illegal old entity, which is the GNC or so. It's the illegitimate government in the
Transition
Eastern
National Congress.
country.
Yes.
But we all still, in spite of what's going on in Libya,
Yes.
I am sure there is one straight objective for the Libyan people. And they still insist, and many good people in Libya still insist that we should build democratic institutions. We should build a democratic state. We should build our country, rebuild our country. Pay attention to the infrastructure of the country, the housing, the welfare of the people, have a good education system in Libya, have good healthcare system in Libya, and good relations with our neighbors, regional
Yes.
community and international community. We don't want to be like before. Like at one time, Libya cut diplomatic relations with Egypt, Tunisia,
With your
Sudan.
neighbors.
They only left the Mediterranean Sea. They did not cut the relations with
Yes. Only the sea was
believe me,
possible.
what one time, but now we don't
Yes.
want to do this anymore because our neighbors are very important to us.
We take another commercial break and we come back, Omar. Publicitate. We are back, and we were talking earlier about Gaddafi, about the history. Now we talk about the future and what happens in the present. And I would like to ask you something. Is it safe to travel now to Libya? How safe is the tourism in Libya? Because many people are afraid to travel because of the tensions.
Well, at this time, I don't think traveling to Libya is recommended, especially for tourists.
Yes.
Unless you have an urgent need to go to Libya. Otherwise, I would not recommend at this time. Libya, I would say, was one of the best and safest countries in the world.
Yes, true.
And it has been like this for centuries. This is the only time that Libya is not safe because of these
Tensions.
but yes.
Sorry, it is very fair from you, and it's good that you gave the warning to the viewers about not going. But I would like to know more about Libya. Tell us, because yes, we talked about Gaddafi, we talked about the atrocities, we talked about the war, we talked about the interests of different countries. But still, you have a country, and we try here to present the country as well.
Yes.
Tell us why. I mean, what you love. I could talk for hours about why I love Romania. Tell us what you like to Libya. What you would, if you would be a tourist, what you would like to see. Maybe not now, but you are in such an interesting neighborhood. Your neighbors are interested. Egypt. You have Algeria. You have Sudan. You have the sea. What is making Libya special?
Well, let's first talk about the Libya as a country, the location of Libya.
Yes.
I think Libya is the location of Libya is very central to the world. Now, this is maybe it's prejudice. This is the way I see it.
No, please, you are a patriot.
But I see that if you look at the map of Africa, you find that Libya is the widest gate to the Mediterranean.
Yes, to the sea.
The widest African gate to the Mediterranean.
True.
We have about 1,800 kilometers of coastline, which is the biggest coastline on the Mediterranean. I think it's the biggest, 1,800
It is absolutely
kilometers.
the biggest. I can confirm that because we look to the countries which are neighbors to the sea, and we can see that you have the biggest territory.
The big coastline. It's a geographic. Centrally located. It's in the middle of everywhere. Important places. Europe in the north, Africa in the south, the Middle East in the east, and then the west, and the Israel, Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, and then you go to Europe through Gibraltar and things like that. So it's close to Europe. Libya is it's very close. You can go. It only takes 50 minutes to Athens, 1 hour to Rome,
with a plane.
20 minutes to Malta. You can most of Europe. You get there in about an hour and a half. It's a very so this position for centuries has made Libya the crossroads of civilizations. So there are many civilizations that went and lived in Libya. For example, we would say the old Greek civilization,
Tuareg and
Greek civilization in Libya, and we still have witnesses there. The city of Cyrene in eastern Libya, and the city of Apollonia.
Yes,
the Benghazi old name is Greek name is used to call Eusperides. And then you have Ptolemaides, also another. So many. I think there are 5 cities, and they used to call it the Pentapolis. While in the west we have the 3 cities, which we call Tripolis, which is the Tripoli now.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, and then we have the Roman Empire in Libya, and Subrata, as you heard, Leptis Magna. They bear witness to the greatness of this civilization.
It's true.
Still beautiful archaeological sites. You go there, and it's a tourist attraction, and. So also we have the ruins from Ottoman Empire. We also have the Muslim heritage, long history of Muslim. So Libya is full of old civilizations.
Mixture.
They lived in this coastline, North Africa, and also in the south. And there is a civilization that's probably over 3,000 years old. In the mountains in the south, in the area of Ubari in Libya, is in the mountains of Akakos, where you could see the drawing and the writings. It's thousands and thousands of years old, and it's a tourist attraction. So Libya, I think, has got the tourist attraction for everybody. We have a long coastline, beautiful beaches. You can find the sandy beaches with the shadow of palm trees. You can find the rocky beaches in the Green Mountain in the eastern part of Libya. If you want to see the desert, the Great Sand Sea. If you want to see the high sand dunes, you enjoy it.
Yes,
so it's got everything. But the tourist industry in Libya is still in its infancy.
Of course.
Has not been developed, and was not developed during the time that we just talked about, because they were only paying attention to oil money, oil revenues. did not think of any other source of income for the country.
Yes, look at what EUA are doing, what is Dubai. They invest so much, all the money of oil, they invest in something.
That's true.
Because the oil is getting over at some point.
Yeah.
And Gaddafi did not understand that. He just took the money from oil and spent.
That's all he cared about. But I think Libya has a very important resource. And I think that with the help of with the European countries, with other countries, we could develop a good tourist industry in Libya. And I'm sure that many people would like to go to Libya because Libya, it's not populated with tourists. So this is another advantage.
Yes.
Besides, also if you go to Tobruk, you know that Tobruk is the city where most of the World War II battles took place.
Yes, exactly.
This is where you can go, you can see the Rommel headquarters.
You still have
still there? It's
Yeah.
still there, and everything is kept there. Even an airplane that fell down during World War II, an American airplane, and they found it after 20 years in the desert, in the middle of the desert, and the airplane was intact completely, and still like that there. And the name of the plane was Lady Be Good. And it's still there in the museum of Tobruk.
That is very nice. And indeed, Tobruk was one of the most important places where the battles of the Second World War were given between the Germans and the Allies.
And you can find there the German cemetery, the British cemetery, the French cemetery. And when I was a little boy, I lived in this city when I was a little boy. And every summer I would see boats bringing many Europeans to the city. You see.
So practically it's a multicultural country coming with variety of historical heritages. And at the present, unfortunately, we cannot see or we cannot take advantage of discovering them because of the tensions and because of the instability which is now there. But this will be over at some point, Omar, and the good times will be back.
I hope so.
What we try to do here is to present also the country and to present the good things the country has, because Romania also passed a difficult moment. Now it's over. We are not in 1989 anymore, we are not in the 80s. We passed that moment and we started to make steps. This will happen, I believe, and I hope also to Libya. And the people from Romania will be able to come and take advantage of your hospitality, of the beaches, of the historical heritage you have, because you and Egypt and all the North African countries, very close to Europe and Middle East, are absolutely wonderful. Morocco, all of these countries have something which is very interesting. You are Africans, but you are also Europeans. You know, it's that kind of mixture which is making very interesting all these countries.
Yes, and as long as you came to this point, the Libyans, originally Libyans, we have Libyans who are original Libyans, lived in this area for thousands of years, which is these are the Amazigh, you know. These are the original Libyans. Then Libya, the people came from different parts of the world. Like we have the people who came from Crete. The island of Crete, and they live in the eastern Libya now. And then you have the people who came from Andalusia, you know, at one point in time. And they live in different parts of Libya. So the origins of Libya are they're multicultural people, and they are because of their location and the many civilizations that have lived in and flourished in Libya. I think the Libyan people have the sense of communicating with everybody. They are connected to everybody. They are easy to get along with. They are,
traders.
They don't feel strangers to anybody. So this is because they are the locations. They have experienced this before.
Omar, I don't want you to go into details, but do you believe that this instability in your country is because of inside people provoking it or outside people provoking it?
Well,
without giving examples.
no, yeah, you're right. First of all, I think I don't want to put the blame on
anyone.
any outsourced
We will not name.
But I think there is some internal issues. And I think the revolution, young people in this revolution, and they got their hands on arms. They got the arms, and they wanted something in return, and there were some conflict between these people. But I would not rule out external interference.
Yes.
I would not rule it out.
Yes, me neither. We cannot go into details because it's not the place, but people must understand that sometimes the instability of a country is provoked by the interests of other countries, and that is very wrong, because that's not ethical, that's not correct, that's not normal, and we are living in 21st century, and we see that. I know some details. I don't want to go into those details with you, because it's putting you in a difficult situation with other countries. Let me address you another question. During the revolution in 2011, and Romanian people will see the footages with people on the streets and the war which actually started. They will be able to witness those times again. But what is your feeling? I mean, what did you feel? Did you feel that it's the moment of becoming free? Did you felt fear? What was the feeling you had? Did you trust it, the revolution, that will succeed?
Well,
many Romanians in Romania didn't trust it that the revolution will succeed because of the hard communist regime.
It's true. I think, just before the 17th of February, which is the date when the revolution took off.
Yes.
I would not believe that this revolution will be successful. Because on the same day, 5 years ago, 17th of February 2006, there was a revolt, an uprising in Benghazi, and was crushed. And about 17 young people died by the security forces for no reason, just because they wanted to demonstrate. And this is why they selected this date. And this date before 17 February, maybe during the time of the Egyptian Revolution or Tunisian Revolution, at the beginning of 2011, they were mentioning that the people in Benghazi and in Libya, they will go and demonstrate on the 17th of February. They write this in the Facebook and everything.
Yes, it was on.
I used to look at this and say, oh, this is going to be a massacre. I don't think this will be successful. Believe me, I didn't think that we will never come closer to success because of the brutality of the regime.
Yes.
And we have experienced this before. And I never thought that this will have, but apparently things went, because maybe the Tunisian Revolution, the success of the Tunisian Revolution,
gave the courage to you.
Yes,
to your people.
Encouraged the Libyans.
Encouraged the Libyans.
Yes, also.
We have 5 minutes more, and I still want to address you 3 questions, for which I would like your shorter answer, if that will be possible, of course. One is, because you talked about this rough regime, is it true, are true the legends about Gaddafi and how he was, let's say, torturing women and his sons as well, and the way he was behaving with his servants, and the attitude towards the people in general, and taking girls from the street, and these are things which are told, which were written in the international media after that. And his personal guards that were women, and they were actually raped systematically by him and his family. Are these realities, or these are overreacted stories?
To be honest with you and to be truthful, I wouldn't say that they are true or not, because I keep reading this in the papers and hearing about this. We hear this all the time, during the
Yes.
time of Colonel Gaddafi. But I would not really...
Okay. No, there are no proofs.
There's no clear evidence, that I have seen in myself that this is true.
Okay.
But I would not rule out any such practices. This is an authoritarian rule, dictatorship. Things could happen like this, But
yes. Was Gaddafi living in luxury, or he was like living like a simple man? Because he was always showing that tent where he was
I
filming
wouldn't say
himself.
luxury, because what we see during the revolution, it's not a very fancy places, but it's not exactly, he was not living in a tent for sure, It's
sure.
something that it's like, what do you call it, a media stunt or
propaganda.
something like this. Well, he's connected with the Bedouin life, and he's the man from the tent, and he's
That's more propaganda
like that.
than
It's
reality.
something related to this, this is for his image.
Yes, of course.
He's taking the tent everywhere he go, and he takes it to Madison Square Garden or to the Kremlin or to. I don't think this is. It's a publicity stunt.
It's
I think.
It's a publicity.
Yes, it's something something like this.
Practice.
But he was a Bedouin for sure. He was a man of Bedouin roots, and his family and his people in Sirte are Bedouins, and people who have participated in the struggle against the Italians. They have the Bedouin ethics, that's for sure. But because maybe of the dictatorship, he was the sole leader of the country because he had everything.
All the power.
He probably deviated from his path.
Maybe, Omar, this is a lesson for Romanians, for Romanian people, that anytime they can lose their democracy if they don't fight for it.
That's true.
Because the new generations, if we compare with you, South Africa and others, the new generations in Romania don't really defend democracy. They are fed up with democracy. They are fed up with everything. They consider they deserve it, and they consider that it's granted. Well, it's not.
Yes.
You are a living proof. You and Egypt and other countries, South Africa. I'm speaking about recent cases, and people died for that, and they wanted more. They not only to have food and drink. Let me ask you the last question, and in the meantime to say thank you for coming and accepting this invitation in these very difficult times for our country, which is not easy to comment about as a diplomat. But I want to ask you something. If your Prime Minister or the President would ask you to be again Deputy Prime Minister, would you accept?
At this time,
Yes.
no. I wouldn't.
Okay.
Because, this is a simple answer, but
Yes.
maybe I don't need to explain it.
No, you don't need to explain. And when you are during your mandate, I mean, would you repeat that mandate if you would have the chance?
Yes.
You would do it again?
I would repeat the mandate. I would do everything again. Because I believe I did all I can. I did my best.
I'm sure you did.
I tried.
I'm sure you did.
Yes.
And I'm sure that Libya will come at the surface at some point, and we will have a more joyful discussion, and we'll talk about
I hope
other
so.
subjects,
I hope so.
and we'll talk about how to visit and where to go and so on, instead of these sad things, but real things,
True.
instability and wars and so on. But again, thank you very much, Omar. It was a pleasure. You were a very warm guest, and again, I was wearing your flag because it's my new rule. It's important in that hour to be in the what's the word in English? In the boots of the others.
Yes.
You know, not to be Romanian. to be a Libyan,
Yeah.
you know, and think and try to feel and think like a Libyan or whatever country you represent.
You're welcome to Libya anytime.
But not now.
Not now.
Okay, thank you very much again
Thank
for
you.
accepting.
Thank you for having me.
Vă mulțumesc și dumneavoastră pentru faptul că ne-ați urmărit și vă așteptăm săptămâna viitoare la o nouă ediție a Ambasadorul România. O seară bună!